Hi everyone. So today we have a few things to work on. We're going to look at examining the Old Kingdom of Egypt. There were three different time periods in Egyptian history, and the earliest is called the Old Kingdom. We're going to examine how to read timelines, and very briefly in the beginning here, I'll review social hierarchy in ancient Egypt for you. So let's get started. The first here is just a reminder that the social hierarchy, the social pyramid, remember it's not a pyramid that they actually physically went into, it's just a graphic organizer as you see here. And the pharaoh rules as a god at the top. Below him are the nobles. Remember that there's one or very few people at the top, less people, more power, and more people, less power as we go down. This could actually have five levels on it, and obviously the lowest level right now, we generally will talk about farmers, servants, and slaves being in that lowest level. But if there was a fifth level here at the bottom of these three, and we should all know that slaves are considered property, they don't have freedom, they would be at the very bottom of the social pyramid. And as vocab for you to review quickly, a pharaoh is a ruler of Egypt. They're the kings of ancient Egypt. But the word, when I say what does the word mean, it wouldn't just mean the rulers of Egypt, the kings of Egypt. It would also be, what does it translate to? The word pharaoh translates to the meaning of great house. And you can, the connection you can make there is what would they live in? Well, a palace, or not really a castle, but a great house, a large house. Okay, and nobles below them, these are in the order that they would go in as well. Nobles are the people from rich and powerful families, and they have a lot of power, not just financial wealth power, but they also are people with government power. They help the pharaoh to run the government. The pharaoh's only one person, and even if they view him as a god, a living god on earth, watching over Egypt, for the gods, because the Egyptians believed that Egypt belonged to the gods, and the pharaoh was just like a caretaker who would come down from the heavens, would come down and rule Egypt during like a human's lifetime, and then return to the heavens, back up to being to where the gods are coming from, and a new one would arrive. And so below that are the scribes. We've talked about these in ancient Sumer. These are the educated people who can write they can write the written language, and we'll talk more about that with Egyptian achievements, but you'll probably already be familiar with that written language being called being called hieroglyphics. And then at the bottom here of this group, so if you look here, scribes and craftspeople are on that same level. Craftspeople, craftsmen, are the skilled workers who make things, and they're not, they don't pick up a stick and say, look, it's a tool. No, these are the people that actually are the blacksmiths that might make weapons and other things, the people that make pottery, baskets, clothing, things of that nature. So let's get into how to read a timeline in history. It's a lot different than math. For one thing, I'll start at the bottom here. There are no negative numbers. You didn't live in the year -21. Okay? A timeline reads from left to right. Left is always older, and on the right of a timeline is always more recent history. There are two labels in history for a timeline. You'll either see it as BCE or BC, or ACE or AD. BCE and BC really are the same thing. The E is added on there for a reason. It takes out religion, the connotation of religion. Same with AD is actually ACE. So we will generally use in this class, try to remember, and I'll try to remember that I always use BCE on the left side of a timeline, ACE on the right side of a timeline, if we are showing both of these time periods. BC used to be called, or it used to be said that it stood for before Christ, and AD after death, but this is not accurate. AD also can be meaning in Latin after the year of our Lord. Okay, so today we take out the religious aspect. For one thing, Jesus Christ isn't everyone's Lord and Savior. It might not even be, your religion. So I don't like to use the before Christ and the after death, or Anno Domini. I don't like using that. I'm more comfortable using BCE, standing for before the Common Era, and ACE, after the Common Era. And again, there are no negative numbers on a timeline. The left side of a timeline, if you have on the left side BCE and on the right side ACE, then where the negative numbers would be on a math timeline, a mathematical timeline, it's actually just BCE and there are no negatives. Let's look at a quick example. The purpose of timelines is to show chronological, meaning time in order, relationship between events. And tomorrow you'll have a short activity to work on for this. But if you look here, it says, 2014 BC, so BCE is older than 1000 BCE, and that's why there's distance. There's 1014 years of space here shown on this timeline. The one thing I don't like, and that I put this on here to show you on purpose, is there's also no year 0. There's a 1 BCE, so everything would go from 1000 BCE, 999 BCE, 998 BCE, all the way down to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 BCE. Then it starts 1 ACE, so we're ignoring the AD. This is an older timeline, that's why I'm showing it to you. And then it will go 180, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to now where we are, 2020 ACE. So BCE, the left side, as you'll see, counts down from 2014 BCE down to 1000. You see how it goes down all the way, so you'll have 2014 little tick marks here, dash marks, down to 1 BCE. On the right side, ACE counts up towards where we are today. BCE counts down, and ACE counts up. That's a huge piece of this lesson. This means if you go from the year 3000 BCE and then the year 2999 BCE, 3000 BCE would be on the left of 2999 BCE. So if right here this was 3000 BCE, you wouldn't go this way. It would be more modern. 3000 BCE is 1 year older, so this way would be 2999 BCE, and we'd be counting down this way. Okay? If you are calculating how long ago something happened in history, and it happened in the year 3000 BCE, then you use the total number of years BCE, and you add them to where we are today. So if, which is ACE. So if something happened in 3000 BCE, and you want to know how long ago that was from today, which is the year 2020 ACE, you would take 3000, because that's when it happened, BCE, and you would add it to 2020. So you really just have, if something happened in the year 3000 BCE, that was not 3,000 years ago. That was 3,000 years from the year 1 ACE, when the Common Era started. So you have the 3,000 plus the 2020. It would have happened 5,020 years ago if something happened in 3,000 BCE. So let's hop into Old Kingdom Egypt. We have a lot to cover. So around the year 2700 BCE, the third dynasty of Egypt rose to power. So after King Menes unifies Egypt, and that first and then second dynasty lasts for about 200 years each, so you're 400 years into Egyptian history already, which is insane because it's so old before the Old Kingdom even starts. So this period began around 2700 or 2700 BCE. It's known as the Old Kingdom, and it lasted around 500 years. So the Old Kingdom itself and all of those dynasties lasted from 2700 BCE to 2200 BCE for a total of about 500 years. Because remember, in history, it's not like things were clean where they started right on 2700 and ended right on 2200. And so if you're looking at a timeline, Old Kingdom would have started right here at 2700 BCE, and it would have ended going this way around 2200 BCE. And I want to point out that this is an incredibly long period of time when you consider that the United States has been around since its beginning just 237 years. So our nation's been around just 237 years, where Egypt already had 400 years of history before their Old Kingdom even began. Okay? It's an enormous amount of time here. So the Old Kingdom, let's go through some highlights for you. The most famous pharaoh or god king of the Old Kingdom, was named Khufu, pronounced phonetically Ku-fu. So legend says, this is a good lesson for legends, you can't always believe what you hear. Legend, word of mouth, says, the stories say that he was a cruel pharaoh. But when we actually look at the written historical record on inside of pyramids and temples, they actually tell us the opposite. That the people that worked for him might have worked really hard, but they were actually very well fed during his reign, during the time that he was alive and when he was in charge as the pharaoh. And this is important because it tells us legend, word of mouth, essentially, what do you call that? Like people saying, oh, well, I heard this happened. Okay, great. You heard something happened. It's a rumor. But historical fact is written down. And when we look at the historical facts, it tells us that he actually was a good pharaoh. And he might have worked them hard, but he fed them well, and that was not always the case. And Khufu is known for the monuments that were built to him and for him, especially including the Great Pyramid of Giza, or the Pyramid of Khufu. The Great Pyramid of Giza, and Giza is the location where it is on the map, as you should know, on your ancient Egypt maps. It is the most well-known of the three pyramids at Giza, and I'll show you an image of that in a moment. It is the pyramid where the pharaoh Khufu is buried, where he's interned. Okay? And so that's what pyramids were used for. They were tombs. They were where people were buried, where they were supposed to spend eternity and live and have a peaceful resting place. It is the oldest and the tallest of the three pyramids in its location. And now to blow your mind a little bit, it was built with 2.3 million blocks of limestone, all of them cut by hand, meaning they would take a saw, they would take a handful of sand and pebbles, and they would rub that saw over and over and over and over until they cut a solid piece of limestone in half. And then they were put in place by hand. There's no machinery, there's no electricity, there's nothing that these people are using except the simple tools that they have around them. There's no electronics, there's no gas-powered machines, they didn't use electric saws, they didn't use lasers, okay? Slaves put these pieces into place by hand. And some of these limestone pieces are larger than a car or an SUV or even a large truck. It's incredibly heavy, and it just took manpower. It wasn't one slave that was like, yeah, I did my push-ups, look at me, now I can move. I can move these limestone blocks around. No, it took it took tens of thousands of people and decades of time, years and years and years of time. And it stands 455 feet tall. It was the largest, well, I should say it was the tallest human man-made structure in the world for about 4,000 years, which is incredible. Here's what it looks like. And if you really look, you can see there's people, tourists, walking around it. Look how massive even one of these stones are. And there are 2.3 million of these stones. You can see if you really focus on it, just placed together. Okay? All the way to the top. And if you look here, this is Giza. This would be the largest of them, with these minor pyramids here as well. Okay? And you can see the scale of how large they are because these are people on camels traveling right here. And this is, this is like one big square right here. That's a piece of limestone. You can see these pieces of limestone. This was done so long ago that nothing was used except manpower. Okay, so now you're going to go into back into Google Classroom where you found this lesson video, and you're going to work on the assignment that you have there.